We have White House counselor Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president, joining us now. It is good to have you this morning.
Thank you, Chris.
So, what do you make of this switch, apparently, from the president of the United States? First, he said a day ago that he's considering he was discussing with Russia, working together on cybersecurity, guarding elections. Everybody attacks it, and then he tweets this morning, No, it was just an idea. I know it can't happen.
Well, what else did he say in the tweet? He talked about what did happen, which is a ceasefire in part of Syria, a very big development coming out of that 2+ hour meeting with President Putin. That's tangible, that's relevant, that's going to affect people's lives. And they had a broad conversation. I mean, Chris, CNN spent a full week plus doing nothing but having these screaming headlines saying President Trump is not expected to raise Russian interference with President Putin. He made it top of the agenda. It was first on the list. He pressed him early and often.
Did he press him, or did he ask him
but that's
whether
not
he did
good
it?
Enough. Did CNN say he wasn't going to mention it all, or didn't they? Oh, they did, because we have this great montage of chyrons.
Listen,
people say things that just aren't true.
You know that. Well, hold on a second. One, I stand by my reporting on it. The day before the meeting, the president was very squishy on Russian interference. He said, okay, it was Russia, but it was other people. Nobody knows for sure. That was his last public statement about it before he went into a meeting, and then a meeting in which he didn't allow a note taker to be in it, so we don't have any readout from it. We hear he confronted him about it. He said, we know you did it. And then we hear, no, he asked him about it. Which is it? Did he say, I know you did it, stop? Or did he say, did you do it, Mr. Putin? Which was it?
Chris, let's back up. So you're saying use this word squishy, which itself is unusual, to describe the president's state of mind. And so somehow that makes people on CNN insist that the president is never going to raise this with Putin. And then it's, why are they still in there 2 hours and 15 minutes?
It's not about CNN. It's about what the president said, Kellyanne. He said nobody knows for sure.
No, it's about people stating things that they want America to think are facts. Aren't you the least bit reluctant, if not embarrassed, that you now talk about Russia more than you talk about America?
No.
Doesn't this bother anybody
Kellyanne, this
there?
matters. You have Donald Jr., who went from saying, I never met with anybody from Russia. I never met with anybody that had anything to do with Russia. Now he's saying he met with someone to get Oppo research on Hillary Clinton, who was connected to the Kremlin. These questions
said the word opposition
matter.
Research.
These questions matter.
Hey,
he
Chris,
says
do you think,
that she had information about the DNC funding Hillary Clinton. These are Don Jr.'s words, not mine. It's not about CNN. It's about what's said and what matters.
It's about all of the above. So let's break it down bit by bit. Don Jr. has very explicitly stated he didn't even know the name of the person with whom he was meeting. He agreed to the meeting based on a contact from the Miss Universe pageant. They get into the meeting, and it quickly turns into a pretext for Russian adoption, according to his statements, that the comments this woman were making about any type of information on Hillary Clinton were vague, they were meaningless. Others exited the meeting very quickly. The meeting itself was very brief. There was no information given. There was no action taken. There was no follow-up. And let me just respectfully say, as well as I can, I don't think anybody had to look very far to find damaging information on Hillary Clinton or negative information.
He still decided to take a meeting with somebody.
No, it's not beside the point. She provided it in a live loop
with him. So it wasn't just, let's have lunch. He brought two very important people with him. It's a credibility issue as to whether or not he knew who he was meeting with. I don't know what should be more troubling to you, that he would take a meeting not knowing who it was, but it was important enough to bring Jared or Manafort, or that Donald Jr. would knowingly meet with someone with Kremlin connections on the basis of getting Oppo research about Hillary Clinton. There are huge legal and ethical implications to that decision, as you know.
You keep saying, no, I'm not going to agree with you on that. First of all, you keep on saying opposition research the way you guys constantly vomit words like collusion and Russian interference and affecting the election, all of which you have no evidence. We cannot convert wishful thinking into hard evidence. If
Don Jr. said that she had information about the DNC and Russians and funding Hillary. What do you call it?
Chris, you were just, okay, listen, you were just able to speak 2 minutes uninterrupted, and I frankly think it was more punditry than reporting. So I would like to respond now.
Please,
my friend. First of all, if you and I were in court right now, your side would not even survive a motion to dismiss, a motion for summary judgment, because you got nothing. Okay, on this one, Don Jr. has very clearly said he was told that there would be some kind of information helpful to the campaign. It quickly became very apparent there was not. Let me say something about who goes into these meetings in the Trump campaign. We were a very small operation. I was not involved in June, but I was involved in July, and I became the campaign manager in August. It's very typical to have principals in the meeting. We had a fraction of the staff and a fraction of the money that they had over there in Clinton Inc. in Brooklyn. So it's very typical that people like that would be. You're trying to have your viewers think, oh my God, because these three principals were in there, it was imbued with some type of seriousness that just simply is not true. This was standard operating procedure for the campaign. Let's focus on what did not happen in that meeting. No information provided that was meaningful, no action taken, nothing.
Let's focus on what did happen. The woman stated that she had information that individuals connected to Russia were funding the Democratic National Committee and supporting Ms. Clinton. That's from Donald Jr.'s statement. That's why he went to the meeting.
Right. And apparently she didn't.
That is a problem, though, taking that meeting, because it goes to one of the questions of this investigation, which is, was Russia trying to get to your campaign for purposes of affecting the election? And this is Don Jr.'s own statement about it, a statement which has changed now twice about what this meeting was. That doesn't raise legitimate concerns.
Chris, you keep on saying Russia. What did this woman say? Why was she there?
This is the word that Trump Jr. used, Russia.
Excuse me?
He used the word Russia. She had information that individuals connected to Russia were funding the Democratic National Committee and supporting Mrs. Clinton. These are his words.
And then he went on to say,
this is why he took the meeting.
And then he went on to say what? No, you got to give the whole statement to be fair to him and to be fair to your viewers. Let's stop chopping it up.
He then says,
put
the statement up. Put the statement up. You're the one who's parsing, not me. Put the statement up.
Let's do it.
Put it up. Put it up. Our faces are nice. Put the statement up. After pleasantries were exchanged, the woman stated that she had information that individuals connected to Russia, his word, were funding the Democratic National Committee and supporting Ms. Clinton. Her statements were vague, ambiguous, and made no sense. No details or supporting information was provided or even offered. It quickly became clear she had no meaningful information. 2 points. One, even if you accept everything he says is true, and there's a credibility issue because he's changed his story twice. I'm sure you do.
Not.
He's changed his story twice. You talked about being in a court of law. Not good when you change your story. There are actual big exceptions to the law for credibility when you change your story like this. Second of all, even if it is all true, whether or not it was good information, Kellyanne, doesn't mean that it was a smart move to take a meeting with a Russian-connected person who is going to give you negative information about your opponent. That could create huge legal issues. You know that.
I admire your moxie sitting there with the CNN Chiron right near you talking about credibility issues.
Listen,
a couple weeks you guys
I could not be more proud to have that CNN Chiron next to me. I could not be more proud to have it.
I could not be more proud here representing the White House on CNN.
And I'm glad you are. I want you here because of that. It's not supposed to be an argument. I'm saying this question started with, why did the president change his position about working with Russia? You spun it over to this. That was my original question.
Wait,
I never got an answer to it.
The president? What do you mean the president changed his story? The president had nothing to do with this meeting.
No, I understand that. I'm saying I asked you originally.
You wanted to produce something because you're invested in months now as a network in something that simply doesn't exist.
No, that's an assumption by you, and it's an unfair premise.
No, Chris. That's not true. Here's the unfair premise, that we are talking about this again, yet again, that you talk about Russia more than you talk about America, that the big bombshell of the day is Jim Comey having classified information, conversations with the President of the United States in his memorandum.
How do you know that?
Oh, because he's got a credibility issue, because I read the article in The Hill.
You read the Hill article that has officials familiar with the documents. So unnamed sources are okay for you on Comey, but not okay for you anywhere else, huh?
I didn't say that.
You've said it many times, my friend. Unnamed sources is the new code word for you guys for fake news. But it's okay on Comey.
I've actually never uttered those two words either. But anyway, the fact is that is a bombshell that people should know about.
It's a bomb. So that report is a bombshell based on unnamed sources.
You just want to interrupt me today.
No, because listen, no, Kellyanne,
As your grandmother would tell you, Ashpeta, Chris, listen to me.
No, my mother would tell me. You know she's a fan of yours.
I'd like to answer. Well, there you go.
Go ahead, answer.
I'd love her back, but listen, I'd love her back, Matilda Cuomo, but listen, this is very simple. That's a bombshell by Jim Comey because the whole country watched him testify. It was supposed to be some big Super Bowl-like event. And then what did we learn? We learned him saying, I felt as a private citizen I should release this information. Oh, but I also gave it to my friend so he would leak it to the media with the expectation it would trigger a special counsel. What was in that information? Apparently, it contained classified information because this man was the FBI director having 9 conversations with the president.
Look, if it's true,
this doesn't concern you at all.
If it's true, absolutely.
This doesn't concern you that the FBI director is doing what Hillary Clinton did the year before?
It all
concerns me. Which is just being so willy-nilly with classified confidential information. She did it with her server.
But I just have to smile at the suggestion from the same White House that calls unnamed sources not a legitimate basis for journalism. Now you're leaning on it so heavily because it suits you. But what I'm saying, it all matters to me. It all matters to me. That's why we asked the questions. Today. But the president saying that he wanted to work with Russia on cybersecurity and then saying, no, he doesn't want to, it was just a discussion, that is a concern. That's why he got so much criticism for it. That's what I asked you about originally.
But you don't want to talk about the Syria ceasefire. You don't want to talk about the fact that these two countries, Russia and the United States, may be able to come together on other issues that are vexing our world, like containing or defeating or putting in retreat ISIS, for example. That they're talking about a nuclear capable North Korea.
I think if there's a real ceasefire in Syria, it matters. This working with Russia on cybersecurity matters. Don Jr. changing his story about meeting with Russians when he said he never did. He said it openly and publicly, called the suggestion fake news. Then he says he did meet. Then he says it was to get bad information about Hillary Clinton. This all matters and sheds light on an investigation that you say doesn't matter. But it proves that it does matter because these questions matter. What light does it shed?
Hold on, because you and I are lawyers who never practice law, which is why we're happy people.
I practiced law for several years, but continue.
I'm sorry. What light has been shed on this investigation through all of this? And Don Jr. has sent out an entire statement. I want everybody to read the entire statement because it's important. You keep cherry picking. But what light is shed on the investigation?
Make sure they pick the right one because he's changed it twice. So they have to get all of them.
Tell me what you learned.
I learned
Tell me what you learned.
That it's not true that he never met with anybody with Russia connections. I learned that it's not true that he didn't take a meeting that mattered to investigators.
And you learned that it was vague, ambiguous, completely meaningless, and a pretext for why the woman was actually there. Excuse me.
The fruit of the meeting is irrelevant to taking the meeting. Why the woman was actually there, which was Russian adoption. But none of that is relevant.
He added to the account of what happened in a meaningless meeting, and 3 of your colleagues were fired because they didn't change their story. They went with a story that was thinly sourced because we're always rushing to judgment.
Now it's thinly sourced.
If we can get Donald Trump and somebody around him.
We're back to thinly sourced.
No. That's
5 sources of advisors close to the president and the words of Don Jr. himself. The New York Times has 5 sources close to the White House. These are your people who are talking about this. This is Don Jr. who's talking about this.
Do you think that anything that you're talking about changed a single vote anywhere? Do you think Hillary Clinton
I don't know why your head has to go there. I want to know if Russia tried to get inside.
You've been talking about it for months.
Because you don't care if Russia was trying to get inside your campaign to affect the election.
You don't know what I care about. Why didn't you ask me?
I just did. That's a question. There was a question mark at the end of it. You don't care if Russia was trying to get inside your campaign to affect the election? Question mark?
I do care. But here's what else I care about. I care about the fact that you seem to forget the Russian connections we do know about. We know Bill Clinton, not Don Jr., gave a speech in Russia for $500,000. We know that Hillary Clinton had one of the 9 votes that allowed 20% of the U.S. uranium rights to go there.
And those were all pursued and looked at.
We know that in the summer of 2016, the people who knew about possible Russian interference in the election weren't at the Trump campaign. They were in the Obama White House. None other than President Obama, John Brennan. They were informed about this. What did they do? Nothing.
Well, they did the same thing the President of the United States now now
everybody
did.
there, as did your
They
polling.
wound up doing the same thing the current president did. They went to Putin. Obama went to Putin and said, stop it. And we guess one of the versions of what happened at the Putin-Trump meeting is that he said, I know you did it. Stop it. That's what Nikki Haley says. So they've done the same thing to this point.
Hey, Chris, don't you think that's a huge improvement, though, over Hillary Clinton having that G.I. Joe-looking plastic toy, Russian reset button, and handing it over as Secretary of State? Didn't you feel the least bit embarrassed as an American?
I don't even know what that means.
Who talks about Russia all the time?
No,
I think her idea of a Russian reset and President Trump
I literally
sitting down
don't
with
get it.
President Putin and trying to find how these two countries can work together is a very positive development.
On cybersecurity, you think working with Russia on cybersecurity of our election is a good idea?
No, here's what I think. I think these two men meeting for 2 hours and 15 minutes on any broad range of issues. Go read what Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, who's doing an amazing job, said about that meeting. He sat in that meeting. He gave a full briefing afterwards. You can read the entire transcript of that briefing. I've internalized it. Read that. Let your viewers read it.
Well, we have it. It just would have been nice to have an objective observer in there.
Have that.
It would have been nice to have an objective observer taking notes in there, like traditionally you do have.
Who would that have been? Who would that have been? Your colleague who, instead of covering a beautiful speech in Poland, called it fake news?
What are you talking about?
And then had to retract that, huh?
What are you talking about?
We covered this speech in Poland.
We covered this speech. We gave it full voice. We gave it all different types of perspective. I don't understand why you believe that bashing CNN is going to help.
Russia? I'm not bashing CNN.
Oh, please. That's all you guys do is bash.
CNN.
I don't understand it. I mean, thank you for the ratings.
You want to talk about you?
Why do it? Not true.
It's not true that
we do not avoid positive stories about the president. You want the fact that we're covering the Russia investigation to mean we don't cover other things. It's not true. We spent 2 segments today talking to Mo Brooks, Republican from Alabama, about what's going on with health care, what needs to happen. And then, only then, did we talk about the Russia stuff. So it's just not fair, not true, and I don't believe it can be helpful to the president. But I believe that you are, and having you on the show is helpful to our audience, and I appreciate it very much.
Oh, we appreciate the platform, Chris. But look, I think CNN, I'm not here to bash CNN. I don't do that as a matter of course. So be fair to me. Hold on. But take responsibility and recognize that as a 24/7 cable station, I have great faith that you can cover all of the above. Instead of covering the same thing every 5 seconds, hour after hour. Why can't you connect veterans with the information they deserve? Why aren't you telling the veterans of this country, because of this president and Secretary Shulkin of the VA, they now have a 24/7 hotline at the White House they can call. They are now seen as the same seamless patient through the DOD and the VA so that they don't have to go through all this nonsense red tape of decades that treats them as 2 different patients. Why don't you tell them about the VA Accountability and Whistleblower Protection Act? Why don't you tell them about the Veterans Choice Act, that if you can't access quality, timely care as a veteran in this country through the VA, which most can, you can go access it through private care now. The president said when he was a candidate something that should animate everybody, including you, which is, if we don't take care of our veterans, who are we as a nation?
That's absolutely true.
Why don't you tell people what we're doing on health care, on jobs? 800,000 jobs created since this man took office. We talk about health care. We talk about the jobs. Okay, we had the Veterans Secretary on New Day. Thank you for watching the show. There's 220,000 jobs created in June. We talked about it when the jobs report came out. I think you can cover all of the above. We do, though. We had the VA Secretary. Have you seen these polls? Listen. That say that the country, Americans want the media to move on from Russia and cover things that actually affect them. Look, can you look the people in the eye that you grew up with in Astoria and I grew up with in South Jersey, the welders, the carpenters, the hairdressers? Can you tell them right now that you're telling them everything President Trump is doing for them? Listen, $100 million committed to the apprenticeship program so we can dignify all types of careers. My conscience is clean. My mission is clear. What I do is I cover what I think matters to people. I test power, and I take the consequences every damn day. And that's not going to change. Thank you for helping us do that this morning. As do I. So we're the same that way. Very quickly. So if we were in court right now and you I'm only trying to wrap you because your guys are saying you have to go, by the way, just so you know. hold on. Hold on. If we were in court right now and you somehow survived the motion for summary judgment or the motion to dismiss.
Yeah, it's a different standard,
what
but go
exactly
ahead.
would be your first piece of evidence? No. What exactly would you produce as who's your first witness to the jury or the judge here? In this case, you're trying to make day in and day out. Because I still don't see the evidence.
Well, first of all, you shouldn't see the evidence because let's liken it to a grand jury investigation. It's going on. We should wait for it to finish and see what they can bring out about it. That's what we should be doing.
You're not waiting for anything.
Look, we take the information as we get it, but we can't know the full. We can't know the full scope of the investigation. See, and that's the point. This is the last point I'm going to make. Your people are saying you have to go. This is my point. The reason the Don Jr. story matters is because you guys have been beating down the notion that an investigation into whether or not Russia was trying to find its way into the campaign to affect this election is a non-starter. It's not worth looking at. It's ridiculous. But now we know it isn't, because Don Jr., at best reckoning to him and to his cause, just got potentially set up by a potential Russian operative to have a meeting. So it isn't an illegitimate question.
Wrong.
It is by his own reckoning. That's what it is. He says that he took the meeting with someone who promised him information about it. But it was what he was promised, not the delivery on the promise. It's the solicitation that's the issue, legally, ethically, and common sense-wise. She said,
Chris,
this is what I have for you, and that's why he said he took the meeting. That's why they're investigating.
Hey, Chris, she had nothing. And let me tell you something.
Doesn't matter what she had, it's what she promised.
I've known who Hillary Clinton is and studied her, including the last couple months of the campaign when I was campaign manager. You know where I went to find damaging, negative information about Hillary Clinton? Hillary Clinton. It was like, she was like a walking loop of negative information.
Look, maybe so, but he still says he took a meeting with somebody who said she had bad information about the DNC and Hillary. He still took the meeting. He says he took the meeting on that basis. What it led to, whether he needed it, whether he could have won anyway, whether Hillary has plenty of other sources of bad information, all irrelevant.
You know he won because he won. You know she was a terrible candidate.
I have no problem with screaming and saying the legitimacy of the president. Donald Trump is the legitimate president of the United States.
And you know, he also
bring it up, not me.
He also won in part because of that meeting. He also won in part because of that meeting that did have consequence, the meeting between Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton.
That meeting mattered also. But you can't pick what you like and what you don't like. Unnamed sources that are good, unnamed sources that are bad. I'm just saying it all matters. It all has to be tested, and that's what we do. And you are a big part of helping us do it. And you can't take
a meeting that lasted 20 minutes, that is reported to have lasted 20 minutes, that produced no information that was, we're told, mainly about Russian adoption, and spin that into some kind of tale and some type of evidentiary trail.
I don't see how that is at all what I'm doing. Don Jr. changed his story.
This is why the media,
Don Jr. says he met with her because she had bad information on Clinton.
Than Donald Trump or Melania Trump or Mike Pence. This is why.
He said it.
And look, he learned nothing from that meeting.
Doesn't matter what he learned. It matters why he took the meeting.
Yes, it does.
Nope.
Yes, it does. It matters completely.
Does not matter for the purposes of the investigation. They're looking into whether or not Russia was trying to get inside the election. He admits he took the meeting because someone was offering him that kind of information. It matters, period.